With Election Day a month away, New Jersey gubernatorial candidates will face off tonight.
PIX11 will host one-on-one race for New Jersey governor, a forum featuring U.S. Representative and Democratic nominee Mikey Sherrill and Republican nominee former Assemblyman Jack Ciattarelli. And joining us before tonight's events is Dan Cassino, professor of government and politics at Fairleigh Dickinson University. Dan, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. Before we get to the main event tonight, let's go over Tuesday's lieutenant governor debate. Want to get your thoughts on that, and if you think it'll have any bearings for how the forum will go tonight.
Well, I imagine the candidates, especially the Ciattarelli campaign, is going to be very, very sensitive about what they say. The big takeaway moment from the lieutenant governor debate was the Republican nominee for lieutenant governor, Gannon, saying, yeah, taxes have to be on the table, increasing taxes have to be on the table, after the Ciattarelli campaign had tried to push back on that after the first debate, saying, no, we promise we're not going to raise taxes. So this was a stumble on the part of Gannon, and Ciattarelli is going to be doing everything he can to try and back that up and try and backfill that and say, no, we're not actually going to raise taxes. That said, this is New Jersey. The budget is in shambles, and basically whoever takes over as governor is going to wind up raising taxes. But they certainly don't want to be talking about that before the election.
Yeah, what was notable about that debate was they played very nicely in the sandbox, but I don't think that's going to be the case tonight. I mean, you think Mikey Sherrill and Ciattarelli, they basically totally separated themselves as candidates.
Yes, and I've really not seen this level of vitriol between Democrats and Republicans on the state level in some time. Normally there is some degree of comedy and people are talking with each other and trying to have policy disagreements, trying to elevate the rhetoric. That's all gone. Both sides basically have decided the gloves are off. They're going to do everything they can to try and attack the other side and tear the other side down. It's gotten real nasty out there, nasty even by New Jersey politics standards, and I imagine tonight will be an extension of that.
All right, to the numbers now. Our recent poll with Emerson College and The Hill, Democrat Mikey Sherrill and Republican Jack Ciattarelli are effectively tied here. What can they do at this point to win over that desired undecided voter margin there, Dan?
Well, so the issue is with undecided voters, whether those undecided voters are going to actually turn out at all. And negative campaigns like the one this has turned into tend to turn off undecided voters. Because they look at all these ads they're seeing on their stream and go, boy, I guess I don't like either of these people. And if you don't like either of the candidates, you're not going to show up, especially in a race that's expected to be this low turnout. This right now is much less about trying to win over undecided voters and much more about trying to motivate your own core supporters, which both candidates are really trying to do by trying to make the other candidates seem completely unacceptable. This is a tricky thing to do. And how do you keep independents who are, may or may not turn out, while also feeding red meat to your base? Well, that's the challenge both candidates are facing right now.
I'm curious, though, what do you think the release of Mikey Sherrill's military records last week, if it's going to have any kind of an effect, the information that was leaked out, do you think it'll help or hurt either candidate?
It has actually put the Ciattarelli campaign a little bit on the back foot. Initially, they were very excited about this. They thought this is a great way to cut against the narrative of Sherrill's military service. And then I think it very much backfired on them because the narrative, it wasn't that she cheated, it was that she wasn't she wasn't turning in other people, which doesn't seem like a scandal anymore, especially since we kind of already knew that went on at the Naval Academy at that time. So the scandal then became the Ciattarelli campaign, getting these records that were released illegally and working with them. And that's just not a good look, especially for the Ciattarelli campaign. You're trying very much to say, we're not about New Jersey politics, we're trying to change things. And this really looked like a Bridgegate-style scandal where, somebody in our campaign did something illegal, but we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to disavow it. It was not a good look, and it activated Democrats in a way I haven't seen in this race up to this point. I mean, the Sherrill campaign has been accused of being low-key, maybe low energy. That anger at Republicans really motivated Democrats in a way I haven't seen before. So if anything, I think it actually might have kicked back against him, and I think you are definitely going to see them talking about it at the debate tonight. The Sherrill camp is really upset about this.
All right, Dan, thank you for your preview of tonight's forum. We'll see you a bit later, I'm sure. Republican Jack Ciattarelli and Democrat Mikey Sherrill will each go one-on-one with Dan Manarino live at King University. Catch one-on-one race for New Jersey governor live from 7 to 8 p.m. tonight on PIX11 and streaming on PIX11 Plus and PIX11.com. It's day 3 of the government shutdown, which could impact childcare, food, and housing vouchers, as well as veteran benefits.
So the Senate will be back in session today, but it's unlikely that Democrats and Republicans will reach a compromise. State Senator Jessica Ramos of Queens is joining us this morning with how New York is bracing for this fallout. So good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me back.
Good to have you here. I think a lot of New Yorkers are nervous right now. I mean, let's take a look at the numbers. I mean, there's an estimated 3 million New Yorkers who receive public assistance. Nearly 1 million get housing vouchers. So is the state prepared to step in if the government continues to not disagree, or not agree, rather?
Well, I'm trusting that Governor Hochul is going to step up over the next few months until the legislature returns to session in January. Because right now, millions of New Yorkers, as you've said, are nervous, are anxious. And frankly, we were already suffering from an affordability crisis, from a food insecurity crisis before the government shutdown. And so that, and all of the federal workers who are now home without a paycheck, this means that our working class communities across New York are the hardest hit. And it should be very concerning to everyone when extremism on both sides has not allowed for government to function and deliver for working people as it should.
What can the state do, though, to make sure they get paid?
Well, if you ask me, I've been carrying a bill called the Recourse Act that I've been pushing for since last session. It would allow New York State to withhold its federal taxes when the federal government unlawfully withholds funding from New York, which we've seen with flood mitigation funding, which we've now seen with infrastructure funding. And so there should be real consequences to taking away benefits from New Yorkers who've paid taxes to get those very same benefits. It's not like they're keeping away entitlements. These are benefits that New Yorkers and Americans have paid for. And I think that's important to mention because it gets lost in this conversation.
Could your bill also support, some major projects here like the 2nd Avenue subway, the Gateway project now impacted by this shutdown, and could potentially get the permanent acts?
Well, it could. So the way the Recourse Act works is that when the Trump administration unlawfully withholds funding from New York would be able to sue, and if a judge finds that it was withheld unlawfully, like it was with the flood mitigation funding, then New York would say, all right, we're going to halt the payments that we make to the federal government. This isn't people's personal income taxes, in order to keep the projects going. So I don't know how much money that would mean in terms of the Gateway project and some of our larger infrastructure projects, but hopefully in the meantime we would be able to keep people working and keep working towards that goal.
Well, while you're here, we also wanted to ask you about what we've witnessed happening down at Federal Plaza. ICE agents, we're witnessing them using excessive force with folks down there. What is being done right now on the state level to prevent this from happening? Is Albany preparing to take any kind of action?
Well, this is a really hard topic always because immigration, of course, is federal law, which the state does not have jurisdiction over. There are some of my colleagues who have introduced bills to try to get ICE agents not to cover their faces with those masks so that there can be some accountability. There are also many different ways that we're trying to take care of the immigrant population, knowing that the deportation of parents just means more children in our foster care system, and actually puts a burden because these are New Yorkers who work. These are New Yorkers who pay taxes. We depend on them. And so between deportation and displacement, what we're seeing, I think, is, New Yorkers being pushed out even more so now out of our own city. And that's where I think the state should step in. The state should and the city should step in when it comes to keeping housing affordability, making sure that our NYCHA buildings are properly taken care of, and of course addressing our food insecurity and making sure that there's living wage jobs for New Yorkers.
I'll ask you very quickly about the mayor's race. As you have seen, the pool has dwindled. The mayor has now stepped out. Andrew Cuomo, now the lone independent in this race. You did back him in the past. Are you prepared now to give an endorsement again?
Well, I'm a Democrat, and I have said that I am concerned about extremes in both parties. And what I want is real sensible government, and that's what I support. I think New Yorkers are tired of the same old type of politics, and what we want to see is someone in City Hall who is actually going to pave potholes and pick up garbage and make sure that NYCHA, has functioning boilers this winter. These are kind of the boring, non-ideological things that a mayor is supposed to do and that we want to see.
But are you still endorsing?
Right now, I'm focused on my re-election for next year, and that's what I'm gearing up for.
Okay. Right. State Senator Jessica Ramos, great to have you here.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time. $70,000 people across the country will lace up their sneakers this weekend and take a step toward ending lupus.
Lupus is an autoimmune disease attacking the body's healthy tissues and organs. 90% of people living with lupus are women. And this morning we are joined by one of them. Lenore Lawton-Timms is a lupus warrior, and she is joined by Louise Vetter, the president and CEO of the Lupus Foundation of America. I want to thank you both for joining us this morning. Ladies, how are you? Good. Now, Lenore, we'll start with you here. I want to ask you first about how you are doing today and for you to share more about your lupus journey.
Oh, I'm doing well. We were just talking in the green room about how this is the time of year when I sometimes will flare up. So I've been monitoring and trying to take care of myself. But so far so good. Very happy.
So you're doing well. What are the symptoms then? Let me ask you, what are the symptoms then of lupus, and how would you even know that you could possibly be suffering from it?
Yeah, lupus is one of the most complex diseases because the symptoms are so numerous and vague. It can be from fatigue and joint pain to brain fog to actually having rashes. So lupus can affect any organ in the body at any level of severity. Wow. And very often the symptoms are subtle in the beginning, and that's why the journey to diagnosis can be so long. It can take up to 6 years for someone to actually get the appropriate diagnosis and start being treated for lupus.
We're seeing here that 1.5 million Americans are living with lupus, and often those who are diagnosed are people of color, Black and Latino women oftentimes too. What's that correlation there, do you think, that we're seeing that so frequently?
Yeah, there's a lot we don't know about lupus, but what we do know is that the majority of Americans affected by lupus are from communities of color. And certainly the lengthy time for diagnosis is probably attributed to the communities that are impacted by the disease. So we're doing tons of research to better understand that. But everything tells us that the U.S. healthcare system is such that there's certain folks for whom it takes longer to get that diagnosis.
Yeah, what was your situation?
Well, I actually just started law school. I was working full-time at ESPN, and I was going to law school at night. And I thought, well, perhaps it's just me being tired from being in school. But then my symptoms began to escalate. And a few weeks before finals, I, just went into complete flare, almost a complete breakdown. So for me, it was pain in the chest, inflammation around the lining of my heart and my lungs.
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't, if I went to bend down, I was a paralegal there. I had to have someone help bring me back up. Wow. Yeah. So, and then finally I ended up in the hospital. I was hospitalized twice right before I took my final exams.
So important to be active and getting yourself checked out, right?
And know your body, your symptoms too. And this weekend, the Walk to End Lupus happening?
Yeah, we have the annual Walk to End Lupus now right here at the South Street Seaport. Tomorrow, Saturday morning, starting at 8:30, hundreds of thousands of folks are going to be there. It's going to be a fantastic event.
And you have great weather.
Absolutely.
It's going to be
one of the warmest weekends we've had.
Yeah, it really is, though, important for people to get checked out once they feel these types of symptoms.
And take them seriously.
Right? Absolutely. Once you get diagnosed, there are things you can do.
All right. Well, thanks so much to both of you for coming in. And here's the information for this weekend's walk again to end lupus. Saturday at the South Street Seaport, Pier 17. Be there at 8:30 a.m. and get your walk-on with New York Liberty player Isabel Harrison. So this champion is behind the wheel of the number 7 Chevrolet in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. He holds the record for the most top 10 finishes in Xfinity Series history. And tomorrow he's joining an elite group of drivers in Charlotte for the NASCAR Xfinity Series playoffs.
Joining us ahead of the action is driver Justin Allgaier. From one Justin to another, Justin, good morning to you.
It's a great name. It really
Great, a winner's name, if I may.
That's right.
All right, so you were competing in these playoffs as the reigning Xfinity Series champ. How are you feeling about your positioning in these playoffs, and do you have any extra pressure to defend that championship?
Well, there's always pressure to defend, right? But I think if you look at all stick and ball sports, all sports in general, right? Getting that first championship is a big deal, but then being able to back that up, you always want to have that success. And you know, our team's done a great job. Right now, we have all 4 of our teams in these playoffs and trying to make it through to the next round. And you know, this weekend we're at the Charlotte Roval, which is a home race for us, right? So you have this unique situation where everybody kind of has the home race. You know, we all have home races, you know, out throughout the schedule where we're all from, but because all the teams are here in the Charlotte area now, this one holds a lot of weight, holds a lot of gravity, and we're definitely you know, vying for a good finish and be able to get to that next round of the playoffs and hopefully you know, back up that video that you're watching right there and do a little bit of training and doing a burnout. That's always a fun time.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm reading this right because I'm like, wait, are my eyes deceiving me? Will Saturday be your 500th career Xfinity Series race?
It will be. This camera's not doing a great job of hiding my gray hair. But I have, you know, it is funny too because a lot of the guys and gals that I race in this series, especially in the Xfinity Series, you know, a lot of up and comers, a lot of young talent, and you know, I think that racing has a unique. I guess all sports have it. You have a great perspective as you get older. You maybe don't have some of the tenacity and some of the youth that you had when you started, right? So finding that balance between the two is always really tricky. But you know, I have great people around me, and it's crazy the technology that we're seeing, you know, kind of being put into the sport. And you know, as much as things stay the same, they are changing very rapidly. And you know, we're getting new tracks like this one that you see here on your video. This is the Roval. This is Charlotte. This has been in the series now for a few years, but you know, it's a mix between an oval and a road course, and it definitely makes it a lot of. But it will throw you off really, really quickly because it is one of the most challenging racetracks that we go to on the schedule.
And Justin, talk more about that, because to most eyes that aren't as sophisticated as yours, all these tracks look the same, but this one is known to be a bit tricky. So how do you adjust?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most unique things about our sport is that every week, you know, while they look the same, there are huge differences, whether it be climate, where the racetrack is at. You know, because of that, some of the services can be different. Then you have racetracks like here at the Roval, where in the spring and May we race on the oval. It's a 1.5-mile oval. And then when we come back here in the fall, we race on this road track that actually cuts through the infield, and where the fans would be camping and parking for the May race, you know, they're now part of, you know, the racetrack goes through where they were at in fall. So you're trying to manage those, and when you have a track that turns left and right, and you have a racetrack that's just predominantly a high banked oval, your setups are vastly different. And this racetrack kind of merges the two of them together because you can't give up the oval setup to be you know, to whenever you're on the oval, but you also have to be good in the infield. So really, really tricky, really difficult. And oh, by the way, extremely fast. I mean, we're going to see
right.
70, 180 miles an hour on this racetrack. So, you know, not the slowest of racetracks that we go to for sure.
Yeah, I'm always amazed at how you don't get totally zoned out, you know, and just get lost in the moment. Before we let you go, though, we have to ask you about your playoff helmet.
Yes.
How did you come up with that design?
Well, my daughters actually came up with it. So I have two daughters.
Look at that.
I have a 12-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my 12-year-old actually painted a majority of that helmet, which is she is far beyond her years as far as art goes. My 4-year-old painted the green at the front there at the top, where you can see that it's kind of painted with a brush. But every year my wife and my kids and my helmet painter, they surprise me with these helmets. And we have a friend that videos these for us, and I get to see the process of, how they came about and what they, how they painted and what the design concept is. And, my nickname is Little Gator. And so I never had an alligator helmet, though. In all the years that I've raced, and my oldest daughter came up with that, and she said, "Dad, I think you need an alligator helmet." And so to see what they've been able to do for me, when I'm retired and I'm gone from the sport, probably my biggest cherished moment is going to be these helmets, because it really is special what they do for me. So really, really cool. And hopefully my daughter stays after, even after I'm long gone of racing. I hope she stays after the painting, because she's really good at it.
Wait, how old is she?
She's 12.
Very good.
12, and made that.
Nice.
That is so impressive.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I've got a great helmet painter that really helps her go through a lot of what we do, so it's pretty special.
That's awesome. Well, Justin, thanks for taking the time to talk to us this morning, and good luck tomorrow.
Absolutely, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right, you can catch Justin tomorrow at 4:30 for the NASCAR Xfinity Series playoffs. It airs right here on PIX11, the home of the CW.